The last voice from Earth echoed through the empty corridors of time. The universe had grown quiet. Stars that once burned like eternal torches had dimmed into fading embers. Planets that once carried life now floated as hollow stones through a sea of darkness. And somewhere in that infinite silence drifted a small station, a relic of what was once called Earth's final outpost. Her name was Eos 9. The outpost was not large, nor beautiful. It was made of old metal, patched together through centuries of repairs. Its corridors were long and cold, echoing with the hum of dying generators. The glass panels that once showed the glory of galaxies now reflected only a dark void. Inside, a single light blinked on and off, the rhythm of an old heart still beating against time. And in the control chamber sat Dr. Elara Venn, the last voice of Earth. Her hair, once black as midnight, now shimmered silver under the pale light. Her face carried lines not only of age, but of remembrance. Before her lay the last transmitter, an ancient communication array built to send messages beyond known galaxies. It was her duty to keep speaking, to let the universe know that humanity had once lived, once dreamed, once hoped. Every day, she recorded a message. Every day, she sent it into the abyss. This is Dr. Elara Venn, transmitting from Eos 9. Her soft voice began, echoing through the empty control room. If anyone can hear me, if anyone still listens, the Earth is gone. But its stories remain. I speak for a world that once loved the stars. When the recording ended, there was only static, a sound that had become her closest companion. Elara closed her eyes, listening to it. In that noise, she imagined voices, children laughing, waves breaking on ancient shores, cities alive with music. But when she opened her eyes, there was nothing. Only the blinking light and the endless dark beyond the viewport. She rose slowly and walked down the narrow corridor. Her footsteps echoed softly, as if the walls themselves were whispering back. The outpost had been designed for a crew of 50. Now it was home to one. In the greenhouse chamber, pale blue leaves drooped from thin stems. The air recycler struggled to keep the plants alive, but they persisted, fragile proof that something still grew in the dark. Elara touched one leaf gently. "You're still trying," she whispered, a small smile flickering on her lips. "Just like me." When night fell, though in space, night never truly came, she sat by the viewing glass and stared at the faint shimmer of a distant nebula. Once, that cloud of light had been a nursery of stars. Now, even it seemed tired. She spoke softly, as if to herself. "The last signal I received was 200 years ago. A message from a colony near the Andromeda Bridge. They said they were surviving, that they'd found a way to restart a sun." But then silence. The memory lingered like a ghost. She wondered if they had made it, or if their son had died like all the others. The logs said Elara had been born on Mars Station Delta. She had never seen Earth, only its images. Green forests, blue oceans, skies filled with golden light. To her, Earth was not just a world. It was a memory she carried like a song she never heard but somehow knew by heart. Her mission was simple: preserve Earth's memory and transmit its history until her systems failed. She had been chosen because she refused to stop believing that someone, somewhere, might hear. And then, on the 7,419th day of transmission, something changed. The static broke. It was brief, a flicker, a sound like breath caught in the throat of the universe. Elara froze. Her hands trembled as she replayed the signal. It was faint, distorted, but not random. There was rhythm. There was intent. Her heart began to race. "No," she whispered. "That can't be." She adjusted the frequency. The signal strengthened slightly. Buried beneath the noise was something she hadn't heard in centuries, a voice. "Low. This is Alpha. Respond." It cut off. Elara stared at the console, tears welling in her eyes. For so long, she had been speaking to nothing. Now, after centuries of silence, the void had spoken back. She quickly recalibrated the array and began transmitting. "This is Eos 9. This is Dr. Elara Venn. I hear you. Please repeat your message. Her voice echoed through the hollow corridors, through the dying machines, through time itself. She waited, breath held, hands pressed to the console. But there was no response. Only the hum of old machinery and the slow, rhythmic pulse of the station's failing heart. Still, Elara smiled. For the first time in decades, she had hope. Something was still out there. She turned on the record log again. Log 7419, she said softly. Today, I heard a voice. Outside, the faint light of a collapsing star flared one last time, its dying rays reaching her window. She watched it fade, whispering to the darkness. Maybe we are not alone after all. And somewhere, far beyond the reach of known space, a voice waited, calling across the corridors of time. Elara did not sleep that cycle. The thought of the signal played endlessly in her mind, like a heartbeat that refused to fade. For centuries, she had lived in silence, her only companion the cold hum of machines. But now there was something else. A whisper that broke through eternity. She replayed the recording again and again. The voice was faint, male perhaps, but heavy with static. Only fragments came through. A low, alpha respond co, ordinates the unknown. Each word was a spark in the darkness, a promise that she was not the last. Elara leaned back in her chair, her eyes tracing the old symbols on the console. EOS 9 systems were ancient, built long before her time. The signal analyzer flickered weakly, its sensors barely functioning. If she wanted to trace the message, she would have to rebuild the array manually. It was a dangerous task. One mistake and the transmitter could overload completely, but she didn't care. Hope, fragile and bright, had already taken root in her heart. She gathered her tools and began to work. Hours passed. The sound of her movements echoed down the narrow corridors. Sparks leapt as she welded new panels and replaced cracked cables. Her hands shook from exhaustion, but she refused to stop. Come on, EOS, she whispered, tightening a bolt. You and I aren't done yet. The old station creaked, as if it were listening. When the repairs were complete, she initiated a scan. The holographic grid flickered to life, displaying the faint trace of the incoming signal. It originated from somewhere beyond the Persis Rift, an empty region of space where no colonies had ever been recorded. That was impossible. She stared at the coordinates. The Persis Rift had been declared a dead zone centuries ago, a region of collapsing stars and shattered planets. No beacon, no ship could have survived there. Yet the voice had come from that darkness. Elara began transmitting again. This is Dr. Elara Venn of EOS 9. I received your message. Please respond. Identify yourself. She waited. Seconds turned to minutes, minutes into hours. Nothing. Only the endless sound of static. And then, faintly, it came again. EOS, this is Alpha. Station, request contact, are you human? Elara gasped. Her fingers trembled as she leaned closer. Yes. Yes, I'm human. I'm the last representative of Earth, Dr. Elara Venn. Identify yourself, please. A long pause followed. The signal crackled, broken and weak. Earth, the voice said slowly, as if tasting the word. We thought it was a myth. Elara froze. A myth, she repeated. No. Earth was real. I carry its memory. Static filled the line again. When the voice returned, it was softer, almost hesitant. Dr. Venn, we are remnants too. The descendants of the first colonists. We survived somehow. Our world was built in the shadow of dying suns. We found your signal decades ago, but it took this long to trace it. Elara's eyes filled with tears. After all this time, the voices she had been sending into the dark had reached someone. The loneliness that had weighed on her heart began to lift. You don't know what this means, she said, voice breaking. Earth lives through us. Through memory, through stories. Then, the voice answered. You are the keeper. Elara smiled faintly. That's what they called me once. But before she could speak again, the signal flickered violently. The connection wavered. the sound fragmenting into sharp bursts. Dr. Venn warning, something coming. Then it vanished. The console went dark. Elara stared at the blank screen, her pulse racing. Something in the voice's tone, fear, urgency, had struck her deeply. She tried to re-establish contact, but the array had overheated. Sparks erupted from the main conduit, forcing her to pull back. She shut off the power and leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. The silence returned, thick and suffocating, but now it was different. There was a message buried in it. A warning. That night, Elara sat by the viewport again. Outside, the stars seemed restless. A faint shimmer crossed the black horizon, like a ripple through the void. She could almost feel the universe shifting. Her thoughts wandered to the message. Something coming. Could it be a storm of cosmic radiation? A star collapse? Or something else? She checked the long-range sensors. They showed no anomalies, but the energy readings were unstable, flickers of unknown origins spreading slowly across nearby sectors. Maybe it's nothing, she whispered, though her voice lacked conviction. The thought of another presence, not human, not friendly, stirred unease in her chest. Humanity's history with the unknown had always been one of curiosity and destruction. As she sat there, lost in thought, the lights in the corridor flickered. For a moment, she thought it was another power fluctuation. But then she heard it, faint footsteps, echoing through the metal halls. Her breath caught. No one had walked those corridors in centuries. Elara rose carefully, her pulse thudding in her ears. She reached for the emergency lamp and stepped into the hall. The air was still cold. "Hello," she called softly. "Is someone there?" No answer. Only the quiet hum of the engines. Then, a faint distortion passed over the floor, like a shimmer of light bending in air. It moved slowly, deliberately, turning down the next corridor. Elara froze. "That's impossible," she whispered. Whatever it wasn't human. And somewhere in the darkness, she heard the faint echo of the voice again, distorted, almost mechanical. "Dr. Venn, they found you." The corridor lights died. The silence returned, but it was no longer empty. The darkness swallowed everything. Elara stood still, barely breathing, her hand gripping the emergency lamp. The corridor was pitch black, save for the faint red glow of the warning light above the bulkhead door. The air felt heavier now, charged, as if the metal walls themselves were holding their breath. The station had lost power many times before, but this was different. This silence wasn't mechanical, it was alive. She took a cautious step forward, the faint light trembling in her hand. "Is anyone there?" she whispered again, her voice small against the vast emptiness. No answer. Only the faint hum of distant machinery. Then, from behind her, a whisper. "Elara."
She spun around.
Nothing. Her pulse quickened. The lamp flickered, casting ghostly shadows along the corridor walls. She backed up toward the control room, forcing herself to stay calm. "You're tired," she muttered. "You're imagining things again." But deep inside, she knew this wasn't imagination. Back in the control chamber, she powered up the backup systems. One by one, the monitors flickered to life, dim, unstable. She rerouted energy from the greenhouse to keep the signal console alive. Her trembling fingers typed commands, searching for any trace of the voice she'd heard earlier. A faint line of static appeared, and then just barely something like speech. "Dr. Venn, not alone, they follow, Voidborn." Her eyes widened. "Who's following?" "Alpha Station. What are you talking about?" Static answered her. She leaned back in her chair, running a hand through her silver hair. The warning haunted her. "They found you." But who were they? The log records held no mention of other life forms in the region. The Perseus Rift had long been abandoned, a graveyard of burnt stars. Yet somehow, a signal had come through, from survivors who claimed to descend from the first colonists, and now something unseen had entered her station. Elara brought up the station's internal scanners. A blue grid shimmered on the screen, showing faint movement in one of the lower decks. Something was down there, moving slowly toward the reactor chamber. Not possible, she whispered. There's no life support below that level. She reached for her suit and sealed her helmet. The old fabric hissed as the oxygen valves opened. Then, gripping a plasma torch, she made her way toward the lower decks. The corridors grew colder the deeper she went. Frost clung to the walls, glittering under her lamp. Each step echoed back at her, like a voice trying to answer. When she reached the reactor bay, the door was ajar. A faint light pulsed within, rhythmic and strange. Elara took a breath and stepped inside. At first, she saw nothing, only the dim outlines of the fusion core and tangled wires. Then, near the central console, something shimmered. A shape, translucent, shifting like liquid glass trying to hold a form. It pulsed with faint light, every ripple echoing the rhythm of her heartbeat. She froze. The being turned toward her, its outline sharp for just a moment. It had no face, no features, only movement, light bending around emptiness. "Who are you?" she whispered. The shape tilted, as if listening. Then, in a voice that was not one but many, distorted, layered, it spoke. "We remember the voices." Elara's breath caught. "You can speak." "Echoes," the being said slowly. "From dying stars, from your kind. You sent them. We heard." Her heart pounded. "You received the transmissions? My messages?" "All messages. They drifted through the dark. We learned them. We became them." It took her a moment to understand. This creature, whatever it was, had evolved or formed from the very remnants of her transmissions. From light, sound, and memory. A being born from humanity's echoes. "You're made from the signals," she whispered, awe and fear mixing in her voice. "We are the corridors," it said. "Time holds no walls. We remember Earth." Elara felt tears sting her eyes. For centuries, she had spoken to the void, and now the void was speaking back, through something that should not exist. "Why are you here?" she asked. The being's light dimmed. "To warn." Warn? About what? The air around it shimmered violently, the light pulsing faster. "The Alpha, they are not what you think. They called us first. They consumed the stars." Her mind raced. "Consumed? What do you mean?" "They drained the suns. Fed on light. On memory. They reached across time to feed." Elara stepped back, her breath fogging the inside of her helmet. "That can't be true. The Alpha were human." "They were," the being interrupted. "Now not." The light flared, filling the chamber with blinding brilliance. For an instant, she saw flashes, visions, of worlds burning, stars collapsing, and shapes moving through the debris of dead systems. When the light faded, the being was gone. Elara stumbled forward, heart racing. The console before her flickered, showing fragments of a transmission, the same voice as before, but distorted and broken beyond recognition. "EOS, run, do not trust." Then static. The reactor lights blinked twice and went dark. She rushed back toward the control deck, her footsteps echoing louder than before. The walls seemed to pulse faintly, almost breathing. When she reached the main terminal, a new message was already waiting. It bore no sender ID, only a single line of text. "The Alpha are coming." Elara stared at it, her mind numb. Somewhere deep in her chest, fear and determination warred like twin stars on the verge of collapse. She turned on the recorder once more, her voice steady but soft. "Log 7420. The Alpha are not what I believed. Something else is moving through the corridors of time, wearing the faces of those we once were. If this is my last transmission, let it be known that Earth's last voice has seen what waits in the dark." The console crackled in reply, an eerie rhythm, almost like laughter carried through static. Outside, the stars around Eos, 9 flickered unnaturally. And far across the black gulf, something vast began to stir. For the first time in years, fear had found Elara again. She had survived solitude, silence, and the slow decay of time, but this was different. Something was coming. The warning wasn't a mystery anymore. It was a promise whispered by both the Alpha and the strange being that had visited her. She sat before the console, staring at the last message. The Alpha are coming. The words burned into her mind like fire across the night. EOS 9's outer sensors began to flicker. Strange readings crawled across the monitors, shifts in gravity, distortions in light, pulses that didn't match any known cosmic pattern. It was as if space itself was folding inward. The hum of the engines deepened, vibrating through the floor. The lights trembled. Elara stood slowly, her reflection dim in the glass. "If you're coming," she whispered, "then I need to know what you've become." She activated the long-range scanners. The image that appeared was faint at first, like dust gathering shape. Then the form solidified, vast structures drifting toward her, half machine, half shadow. They glowed faintly with energy stolen from the stars themselves. Her breath caught. It's impossible. The Alpha Station was no longer a human colony. It was a moving fortress, built from broken moons and the skeletons of old ships. Its core burned like a dying sun. The once human colony had merged with something else, something ancient, parasitic, and alive. They consumed the light, Elara murmured, remembering the being's words. The scanner beeped sharply. The station's engines had slowed. The Alpha were close enough now for direct communication. Against her better judgment, Elara opened the channel. "This is Dr. Elara Venn of EOS 9. Identify yourselves." Static filled the room. Then, a voice answered, smooth, metallic, yet eerily familiar. "Dr. Venn, we have waited for you." Elara stiffened. The voice belonged to the same man she had spoken to before, but now it was colder, hollow, stripped of emotion. "What have you done?" she demanded. "What are you?" "We are what remains of humankind," the voice replied. "We shed weakness. We embrace the void. We no longer die, we become." Her fingers tightened around the edge of the console. "You've become parasites. You're feeding on the stars." "We are preserving them," the voice corrected. "Their energy lives through us. We are the continuation of existence. You, Elara, you're the echo. A relic speaking to ghosts." Alara's heart pounded. Humanity's soul wasn't meant to survive like this. "You've lost what made us alive." A pause. Then, almost tenderly, "And what made us die?" The channel went silent. On the monitor, she saw them, shapes emerging from the black, their metallic hulls gleaming faintly, absorbing every trace of light around them. They moved with terrifying grace, their patterns rhythmic, almost intelligent. EOS 9 shook as a wave of gravitational pressure hit its outer hull. Warning lights flared red. "Impact in 3 minutes," the computer announced weakly. Elara began typing frantically. She rerouted the remaining power to the signal transmitter, trying to prepare a final broadcast. If she couldn't stop them, at least she could warn anyone or anything that might still exist beyond this dying sector. Her voice trembled, but remained steady. "This is Dr. Elara Venn, transmitting final emergency log. The Alpha have become something beyond human. They feed on dying stars, on the echoes of life itself. If you hear this, do not approach the Persis Rift. Turn away." As she spoke, the door to the control room shuddered. A heavy thud echoed through the metal. Another. Then another. Something was trying to get in. She grabbed the plasma torch and backed up slowly. "Not yet," she whispered. "Not like this." The door split open with a screech. A shape entered, a tall, humanoid figure, wrapped in metallic strands that shimmered like liquid. Its face was blank, but when it spoke, she heard that same familiar voice. "Elara, you called to us for centuries. We came to answer." Her torch flared, casting blue light across the figure's surface. It wasn't entirely machine. Beneath the metal shimmered something organic, veins of light pulsing like a heartbeat. "I didn't call you," she said through clenched teeth. "I called for life, for humanity." "We are humanity," it said, stepping closer. "You feared death. We conquered it." She took a step back, eyes narrowing. "At what cost?" The figure tilted its head. There is no cost in eternity, only memory. Elara raised the torch. Then you've forgotten what it means to be alive. The being's hand twitched. You still cling to the past. The stars are dying, Elara. We are what remains. Before she could answer, the station shuddered violently. The lights flared white, then dimmed to black. The plasma torch went out. She was thrown to the floor. The being staggered, its form flickering like broken light. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, the same sound she'd heard when the strange being first appeared. And then, from the far corner of the room, light gathered, soft, blue, shimmering. The echo being had returned. The metallic creature hissed, its voice breaking apart into static. You should not interfere. You consume what must fade, the being replied calmly, its voice echoing like wind through glass. You take what was meant to rest. Rest is decay, the Alpha answered. We bring continuation. You bring silence, the being said. You burn the last voices that remember. Elara crawled backward, caught between them. The two forces of existence, one born of memory, the other of consumption, stood before her, their lights colliding in waves that made the air hum and twist. She felt something deep within her stir, a realization. They were both right and both wrong. One represented life clinging to survival through remembrance, the other through transformation. Humanity had fractured into two paths, memory and power. And she was standing at the intersection of both. The echo being turned to her. Keeper of Earth, you hold the balance. The light within your voice binds what remains of humanity. Choose. Elara's throat tightened. Choose. To preserve or to end. The Alpha's voice grew sharper. Join us, Elara. Merge with the continuum. Your mind will live forever among the stars. Or fade into dust with your fragile echoes. The chamber shook. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The console began to melt under the intensity of the energy between them. Elara's mind raced. To preserve memory meant letting go of the stars, to let them die naturally, taking humanity's story with them. But to join the Alpha meant surviving as something unrecognizable, endless, but hollow. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, softly, she reached for the transmitter control and whispered, "Life is not meant to last forever. That's what gives it meaning." She pressed the command. The core overload began. A deep, rumbling sound filled the station. The Alpha figure stepped forward. "You would destroy yourself?" Elara met its gaze.
No.
"I'm freeing what's left of us." The light from the reactor surged, engulfing the room. The echo being spread its arms wide, merging with the energy, amplifying it. The Alpha screamed, a sound that shook the very fabric of the station, as its metallic body began to disintegrate into streams of fading light. As everything burned white, Elara heard a voice, soft, distant, like a whisper from another lifetime. The last voice from Earth still echoes. And then, silence, silence. At first, there was nothing, no sound, no motion, not even thought. Only a vast stillness, stretching across what once was time. For a fleeting moment, Elara thought she had died. The pain was gone, the cold had lifted, and all that remained was a soft warmth, like sunlight through water. Then, slowly, she began to hear it. A hum. Gentle, rhythmic. The same hum she had known all her life on Eos 9. The sound of its heart. But now it was different.
Deeper. Alive.
Her eyes opened. She was floating, not in a corridor or chamber, but in a space that shimmered like liquid light. Fragments of the station drifted around her, glowing faintly before dissolving into the luminous mist. Her body felt weightless, her breath steady. "Where am I?" she whispered. The voice that answered was both familiar and strange. Between what was and what will be. It was the echo being. Its form now appeared radiant, vast, flowing with strands of light that pulsed like constellations. Elara looked around in awe. "Did I die?" "You ended. But you did not vanish. You became what you always were meant to be, an echo of life carried through time. Her gaze fell on the distant glimmer of the Alpha fleet, or what remained of it. The enormous structures were now fragments, scattered across the void. Some drifted silently, their light fading. Others shimmered faintly, merging with the same luminous mist that surrounded her. "They're gone," she whispered. "No," said the being gently. "They are part of you now. Their energy, their memory, everything returns to the same current. The cycle continues." Elara touched her chest, feeling the steady rhythm within. "So, this is what comes after the end." The being's light flickered like a smile. "There is no end, only change." For a long time, she floated in silence, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. The loneliness, the centuries of unanswered transmissions, the voices lost in the dark, all of it had led here. She closed her eyes. Did anyone hear me? All those years I was sending messages, did they ever reach anyone besides the Alpha? The being hesitated. Then, a ripple of light expanded around them, forming shapes, tiny, distant specks of gold scattered across the dark. "Yes," it said softly. Others heard. "Worlds beyond your sight. Beings born from stars not yet named." Your voice reached them all. It taught them what Earth once was, what humanity once dreamed. Tears filled Elara's eyes. "So the memory lives." "Because you kept speaking when the universe stopped listening," the being said. "Because you remembered." The glowing mist around her pulsed gently, and within it, faint images began to take form: oceans, skies, forests, cities filled with laughter. Earth, reborn not as a world, but as memory made light. Every word she had spoken, every message she had sent, had become the seed of new existence. It was beautiful. Elara turned toward the being. "What happens to me now?" "You become part of the corridors," it answered. "The voice that echoes between stars. When someone listens again, your words will guide them." She smiled faintly. "Then I'll still be speaking. Always." The light around her grew brighter. Her body dissolved slowly into threads of silver, merging with the great current that flowed across space. As she faded, she felt no fear, only peace. Her last thoughts drifted like whispers carried on wind. "To whoever hears this, know that we were here. We dreamed. We reached for the stars. We built worlds from dust and stories from silence. And though we are gone, we are never truly lost. We became the echoes that fill the corridors of time." Her words shimmered through the vast emptiness, carried across galaxies, through ages yet unborn. The corridors that once echoed with loneliness now pulsed with light and memory. Centuries passed. The ruins of Eos, 9 drifted silently through the Perseus Rift, its metal bones glowing faintly with the energy of its final transmission. Across the void, small signals began to awaken. Young civilizations, curious explorers, fragments of distant life, all tuning into an ancient frequency. And from the static, a voice spoke once more. "This is Dr. Elara Venn, transmitting from the stars. The Earth may be gone, but her voice endures." Planets paused in their orbits. Moons trembled softly. Somewhere, in the hearts of those who listened, something awakened, a memory not their own, but older than light itself. They didn't know her name. They didn't know her world. But they felt the warmth of her words, the courage in her echo. And thus, the last voice from Earth became the first song of the stars. The corridors of time carried it endlessly, gentle, eternal, and alive.